Hey, what's up, you guys? I'm here today with the full review of the Dan Henry 1964 chronograph. I previously did a shorter video that was just kind of an unboxing and first impressions, but I've had the watch for number of months now, and I kind of feel like I can give my full review on it. Real quick before we start, I'm wearing the Seiko SARB 033, another 38 millimeter watch. It's quickly becoming my favorite size, and more on that later. But this is also the Dan Henry 1964. It's also a 38 millimeter watch. So real quick, we can run through the dimensions on this guy. You got 38 millimeters on the case diameter, not including the crown. 13 mil thick, so it's a good size for that. 19 millimeters lug width. So that's the only dimension on this watch that's not ideal, because you're going to have to find a 19 millimeter strap. There's, a little bit less options. Generally, you see 18 millimeter straps and 20 millimeter straps. 19 is a little bit rare, but fortunately, Dan Henry actually sells, this strap came with the watch. It's a black leather here, and it nicely has quick release pins. And then they sell these in a number of other colors on the website. So you do have those options, and that's nice that Dan Henry provided those options using this 19 millimeter size. And then finally, you have 45 mil from lug to lug. And it's from the very end of the lugs to the other side of the lugs. So this is the, like I said, the Dan Henry 1964. These come in 4 colorways. There's a silver dial, a slate dial, regular Panda dial, which is the white with the black sub-registers, and then this is the reverse Panda, or in this case, it's cleverly marketed as the Evil Panda. And then there's date and no date versions. I got the date version. I really like having the date on a watch, and I think it was done really well. The date wheel is also black, like the back of the dial here, and so at distance on the wrist, it just kind of fades away. You don't notice it. It still looks really clean. But if you do hate having that date and you feel like it breaks up the dial, it is available in the no date, which is nice that he offered the date and the no date. Your case here is high polish on the bezel here, and you have some a matte finish here in the middle, and then it kind of goes back to high polish. So that's pretty cool. Just kind of the different surfaces there. It's all about the dial, I think, on this one. So I like the high polish on the bezel. Another cool thing about the case is right here on the back, you have, this is the 1964 Aston Martin, I think it's the DB5, and this was, I think Goldfinger was the James Bond movie where James Bond had this car, and this is from 1964. So a nice little cohesion, tying in that whole time period and kind of the, these chronographs. It's like a dragster chronograph, so nice detail on that, and that's done really well on the back of the case there. So moving right along onto the crystal. The crystal on this is really cool. It's domed, and you can see that really cool dome, and it does a nice distortion there as it comes across the dial. I really like the dome. This is it's called sapphire coated mineral. I think that's a little bit of a marketing ploy. I also had the Dan Henry 1939, and I did manage to scratch it. So I don't know. Maybe let me know if you have what your experience is with the sapphire coated, but it seems like a pure sapphire crystal would have just been a better choice here. But I understand that it's a cost saving measure. The hands, you have these baton hands, and I really like the hands. They are high polish, so they do catch the light. They get a little bit lost sometimes in the dial because it's a busy dial. You have a lot going on. But then there's those 2 white sticks at the end of the things, and those are loomed. The only other thing I would say, so my couple downsides of this watch is the loom is not that great, but I don't think you really need loom on a watch like this. So that's one of my negatives. But the hands, they did a good job. I like that so this is one of the things I really like on a watch. I like that the minute hand here is going all the way out to the tachometer. On the outside, it's reaching all the way to that white. And then the hour hand is like long enough to see what's going on. And then you do have that running seconds. This is at the 6 o'clock position. And these, it's going to be difficult to tell. I don't really have great lights yet. But the sub-register hands and this running chronograph seconds hands are blue. I think they're just painted blue. They're not heat treated, but they look really cool when they catch the light. It's kind of catching light, but I'm getting kind of glare there. But that running seconds is You can see this is powered by it has the Seiko VK63, so it's like a Meca-Quartz movement. So you do get, the 6 position, that's the running seconds, that ticks, but then you actually get multiple beats per second on this chronograph second, so it does kind of sweep, which is pretty cool. And then the Meca part is the coolest part. When you stop it, and then when you reset it, it snaps back because while this is a quartz watch, it has a quartz movement, the reset mechanism on the chronograph seconds and then the chronograph minutes is a mechanical operation, so they do snap back. So that is pretty cool. Gives the watch a little bit more soul, I would say. So those are the hands, and then on the dial you have this, and I'll pull in with the. I have a macro lens I can show you a little bit closer, but you have the dial is this reverse panda. So you have actually it's really cool. You have the tachometer in like white, and then you move into the dial proper. You have applied indices, and they're high polish and they're faceted, so you can see they're catching the light there. You have a double at the 12. And then you have the other positions, sans the 9, 3, and 6. This 3 o'clock sub-register is 24 hours sub-register, so you can kind of see how far into the day you are. It's cool. I think it balances the dial out. I don't look at it much. You have your normal running seconds here, so that's just the normal time function running seconds. And then here's your chronograph minute. So if you run the chronograph every minute, it will track a minute here up to 60 minutes. And then finally, you have Dan Henry at the top. Yeah, the dial is great. I think the dial is the part of the reason I like this watch so much. I really like the reverse panda style. I think the panda also looks really cool. So the bracelet. This is someone said it's the year. Actually, it was the Two Broke Watch Snobs podcast called it the year of the beads of rice bracelet, and I think it's going to continue to be beads of rice. Is very popular right now. This bracelet is really good. So it's very comfortable. It articulates really well, and you can see you have really high polish on the center, like the beads of rice, and then the outsides are brushed, and that gives a really cool difference. It looks really great. And when I first got this watch, it felt, I don't know, the bracelet felt dainty is the word I would use to describe it. And I was kind of worried maybe if I wasn't like feeling quality, it just felt like chintzy, but I think dainty is a better word. What I've discovered of wearing this bracelet, it's very comfortable and it seems really high quality. Like it is high quality. It wears well. But at first I thought it felt cheap. But I think they kind of really nailed it here. It feels like, and obviously Dan Henry's whole line is about, a lot of people want to have like these older style watches, but you don't necessarily want to get a vintage watch because, oh man, like service history or you're getting it repaired, it can get really expensive, and so many of them are frankened. You might not know if you're getting something authentic. So here's like a really safe way to buy an old style watch, but it's brand new and has a warranty. So it's kind of taking away all the fear or just like the knowledge you need to be a vintage watch shopper. So I think they really nailed that with this bracelet. It feels like a vintage watch. It's not super heavy, bulky metal. If you've ever handled any vintage watches, they just didn't make bracelets weren't like tanks. Like a lot of the bracelets on modern watches are like super solid. It's like a tank. They weren't really like that. These vintage watches weren't like that. So I think they really nailed that feel of it. It's very comfortable. I guess my only other complaint on it is you have this is stamped, not milled. I know people like to see milled. Stamped clasps don't super bother me. The only thing that I don't like about this is it's a single pusher. And I think it looks really cool. You have Dan Henry etched in there. But I would have really liked a double pusher. The single pusher is a little bit weird to operate, and then I never know if I really have it. I don't know, have it secured. Sometimes I just got to take the time to make sure I get that snap. There's something about that double snap on the two twin locking that I like better. But I'll pop it on for a wrist shot, and I'll show you why I like this beads of rice bracelet so much. So I wear my watches kind of like above. So there's a couple ways you can wear a watch. You can wear it. Some people wear them They'll wear them below this bone. You have this bone. I don't know what bone it is. Some people wear it above, but I don't like wearing it there because it kind of messes with your range of motion on your wrist. Some people wear them on the bone. That doesn't look comfortable, but I wear it like right above. And what you'll notice is that this Beads of Rice bracelet just kind of curves right onto the bone of my wrist, and it keeps it really secure. And it's also really comfortable because it's kind of going along with the flow, just with the bone of my arm. I don't know. There's something about that I really like, and I really like this Beads of Rice bracelet. I think it's really attractive. It tapers down from 19 to, I don't know what it tapers down to here, maybe 17. This might be 18. It might not taper down. It looks like it tapers a couple millimeters, but it's really comfortable, and that's why I haven't put it on the I haven't put it on the leather strap at all. So I can't really give you a review of the leather strap. It's thin, but it's pliable. I don't know. I don't know how to tell like what a good leather strap is. I think soft is good. I have quite a few red leather straps. I don't know. I guess it's a matter of personal preference. Obviously, you want it to be like last a long time because sometimes the leather will like, if you wear it a lot, will start to break down. For example, this is I think probably the nicest strap I have. This is my Sarb. I put a Christopher Ward strap on here. It's really soft. But then you'll notice and I think it's holding up really well. That's obviously where the keeper lands every day. And you can see it's worn in, but it's not really damaging the top of the leather. So I don't know. I'm not really an expert on leather. But this is fine. I think it's perfectly passable. It's pretty soft. If someone has one and they've worn it for a long time, maybe you can let me know. But it's cool that you get this strap and then you also get the Beads of Rice. So overall, I'm really happy with this watch. I guess the only other complaint people might have about it is that it's quartz. But if you're looking into getting an automatic or a hand winding chronograph movement, you're really going to jump the price up. This watch is a lot like it reminds me, just looking at it, of there's a Hamilton Intramatic 68 auto chrono that they kind of released, and it's they're one of those I think it's supposed to, pay homage to vintage style chronographs. And that one has the H31, which is based on the Valjoux 77533, or 7753, I think. But that's a $2,000 watch. So this is a $250 watch. So, it's almost 8 times or, just close to, 8 times the price of this watch. So, you got to keep that in mind of kind of the value proposition you want to get. Now, there are those Seagull hand winding. I think they're on Long Island Watch. There's Seagull's 1963s, and those have automatic hand winding chronograph. It would have been kind of cool to see one of those in here. I don't know. I think maybe, that would have been kind of neat. But what I will say is the quartz doesn't really take away from this watch for me. For $250, what you're getting, the size, and it really captures that vintage feel. You can't go wrong here. I would just never buy a $2,000 watch, I don't think. So for me, the idea of spending $2,000 on a mechanical chronograph, it just doesn't appeal to me. So I feel like I'm getting, the experience. And the fact that it's quartz really doesn't bother me. And the fact that it's Meca-Quartz is cool because then it kind of adds that snapback. And then the only other thing about having quartz watch is, holy cow, it's convenient to... this is an accurate movement here, so I don't think it's. I haven't checked the accuracy, but it's accurate to a second or so a month. So I had to quick set the date a few times, but other than that, I haven't touched the time, and that's pretty nice. When I'm just kind of in a hurry in the morning, and you have a quartz watch, that's the one to grab, right? You don't have to mess around with setting the time. So I think that's a major benefit, and I think with the price point of this watch, it's unbelievable, the level of quality that you're getting for this price point. So I can't recommend this watch enough. I think all of Dan Henry's stuff is pretty nice. The other one I had was the 1939. The reason I like this one the most is just the size. For one, I really like 38 millimeters. It took me a long time to get used to it. But I have a 6 3/4 inch wrist. When I first got this Sarb and I opened it, I had a heart attack at how small it looked. It looks so weird. But then when you get used to wearing them, you kind of really find your comfort zone in the watches that you're wearing. And I think they just fit. It's all personal preference, but just based on your wrist size, if you're in the 6.5, 6 3/4 like me, I would really consider trying these 38 millimeters. And the other thing is this is more historically accurate to being those vintage watch sizes, watch sizes, this is kind of more the size that you would have seen in the time period. Probably even smaller, maybe like 35, 36 millimeter. And so that was my one complaint about that. I had the 1939, but that thing is like 41.8 or 42 millimeters. It's like a pie plate. I just don't, it looks absolutely gorgeous. That 1939, the black and red one, if you get a chance to see one of those in real life or you're curious about it, oh, it's very beautiful watch. But the size, it was just kind of big, and it didn't really, like, making a vintage watch that big, I feel like sort of defeats the purpose of making a vintage watch. So, and I think that's kind of the feedback that they received going into this 1964 release. And I think making this 38 millimeters was definitely the right call and kind of really rounds out the line. So I can't recommend this watch enough. If you're thinking about it, I would say go for it. They still have them on the site. I know, all his watches are limited. I can't remember the number of mine, and they make them based on the number of years. So they'll still have 1964. I don't know if this one's numbered. Yeah, this is 365. And so far, the only other watch, I think he has that 1960 or 1972, the Diver. That one is officially gone. So he has sold all of those, and they're not going to make it again. That's the only watch so far on Dan Henry's site. As far as I know, that's completely gone. But yeah, you might want to pick one of these up. I know they sell pretty hot, and once he makes 1,964 of them, that will be the end of those. All right, guys, so I'm just going to pull in and I'll do a little macro shot so you can kind of see the better details of the dial. And then I'll leave you with that. There we go. Now we're nice and close. Ooh, I got to hold it steady. And you can see the concentric circles on the sub-register. That's a pretty cool detail. And then if we move along, you can see one of this faceted hour markers, and there's a little bit of lume there on the left side close to the tachometer, and then it's faceted, so there's two sides. And you can kind of see there's a patterning on the dial. It's kind of like almost looks like rock or something like that. And then there's the Dan Henry, and you have the 24-hour sub-register. You can kind of see the detail of the blue sub-register hands, and then here we have the date. You can see it's integrated quite well. And you can see, kind of see on the right side of the screen, the blue, there is an anti-reflective coating here on the crystal. Yeah, so there's some of the details of the watch up close. It's a very attractive looking watch. All right, thanks guys.